Welcome to the Do Life Well podcast. Join your host, Gavin Merwin, and his guests as they explore the nature of doing life well. Now, let's dive in.
Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Do Life Well podcast. On the show, I'm your host, Gavin Merwin. We talk about how men can live life well. We're instructed to do so in Proverbs 3, to be known for doing life well. And I'm super excited about today's topic. Got a good friend of mine, Trevor Lampe, with us on the show today. And we're going to be covering a key critical component of doing life well, and that's health and wellness. If you're not healthy, you're not good to anybody. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
For sure. Well, health and wellness is obviously something that's important to you and something that I've picked up relatively recently. We can kind of talk through what both our journeys looks like through that. But, segment one, just talk about some foundations, right?
Yep.
So we're discussing the importance of just building a base, because everybody's at different places around this topic.
Yeah.
Some are just starting out, some are more advanced, things of that nature. So, I guess start with maybe just a little bit about your journey on this topic, and then we can dive into some specific questions.
Yeah, sure. I think everybody gets into, health and wellness or working out, in different parts of their lives. A lot of people get into it in high school. They have a good weight room, a good weightlifting coach, Other people get into it more so in college, and then even some later in life. So for me, it was, touched the weight room in high school some, but wasn't too enthused about it, wasn't too focused on the weight room or getting stronger in that sort of sense. So it came on in college with my roommate, shout out Ross Pickle. We started going to, your Planet Fitness and
Nice.
Doing the bodybuilding routine, watching the videos on YouTube.
Getting pizza when you left.
Yes. I think it was buff dudes, gave us our workouts.
Nice.
But yeah, it eventually, turned into, going by myself to the gym, kind of getting a little bored with the routine, the same old, and kept passing by this new building that said CrossFit in big letters, and eventually just walked through those doors and, found that methodology and found what it was to do CrossFit. So from there, health and wellness definitely took a bigger chapter of my life, and has been something that I've been able to prioritize and, really has given me that foundation for other parts of my life. So,
yeah, a couple things to unpack there. My journey's not super ununique in that way or very different. Played sports growing up, so you go to weight room because you have to, but
Right.
I don't really remember. It's funny now that I am more into CrossFit. I don't really remember. I know we power cleaned and squatted and benched. I know we did all that, but I don't remember much of it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, then when I leave high school, I did have a trainer when I was at VSU. I can't remember if it was my freshman or sophomore year. So I hit the gym some, but never seriously.
Right.
And then, I just turned 29 and it's been about a year and a half. So July was about a year that I really got back after it.
Right.
But it's funny, so I didn't know that. So CrossFit was random, this random building,
Yeah, it was actually it was COVID. It was kind of COVID driven. Everybody was kind of getting into their shells, and we were home a lot. I was still getting to go to the gym, but it wasn't as much, and you had to wipe down all the equipment and do that sort of thing. And people were wearing masks, and it was towards the end of kind of COVID, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to walk through here. There was a big...
And you knew nobody, is what you're saying?
I knew nobody.
That took some courage.
There was a big banner outside, and it was, and it had a Bible verse on it. Unfortunately, I couldn't tell you what the Bible verse said, but it was something I just kept passing by, and something told me, let's just walk in here and give it a shot.
Give it a try.
And that's what happened, and I haven't really looked back. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that was just random.
It was,
and then I guess in a way it was for me too, getting into CrossFit. Because for me it was honestly, where I work. Our CEO is super big on being healthy and well and all those kind of things, living a long life, and it is important, So he's been a big part of my journey, and even sponsoring it, helping pay for all of the stuff that I have, which is phenomenal. But there was a guy we knew, Quake, and he was like, hey, just come hang out and see what you think. You know, I would like dabbled with Planet Fitness, similar. You know, I was spending more time on the water table than I was on the machines.
Yep.
And there's no free weights. I mean, it's, you know, hey, talking about, again, different levels. You know, if you're doing absolutely nothing, that's awesome. Go get on the treadmill, go do that kind of stuff. But, you know, this introduced me really into functional fitness. And it was a lot of like kettlebell and dumbbell and those kind of things. But he rented space at a CrossFit gym.
Yep.
And so I wasn't doing CrossFit, but I was at a CrossFit gym. And then he moved. And so I was like, I just reached out to the gym owner and was like, hey, I'm looking to keep a trainer. Because again, you know, fortunate to have that one-on-one. And he gave me somebody. And the person he recommended is like a CrossFit athlete, you know?
Yep.
So, I mean, it's like naturally that was his inclination. And now that's all, you know, I do. So it was kind of random for me too, I guess.
And it's fun, right? It's like it changes working out up, at least the way that some people think about it. You know, some people think about it, I got 4 sets of all these exercises and I have 10 reps and I just have to knock it out. But, you know, a lot of times you go into the gym and you're having fun. You know, it's almost like an adult playground in a sense.
Yeah.
And then you come out, you know, shredded on the other side. So
you do. I'm still working on it.
It comes for everybody.
Yeah. We did a workout this morning.
Yep, we sure did.
A CrossFit workout this morning. We thought it'd be fitting to kind of get one in.
Yeah.
You know, Trevor's not around here, so when he's in town, we try to get a workout together. And so it was fun. He about passed out a few times.
Yeah.
But
Shout out J.R. Howell, giving us the workout to do today. 120 wall balls, 60 dumbbell bench, 30 cleans. Gavin destroyed it.
Appreciate
you did good,
it.
man.
Yeah, you drugged me along. So obviously we talked about, you know, well, I say we did, like, so a question I had down was what motivated you to start focusing on your health? Yeah. So I know, like you said, like, okay, in college, I guess it was something for you and Ross to go do. That was kind of it. I mean, it just sort of evolved into, because I mean, like from my perspective, and you may say no, but I think you're on the more elite end of that spectrum. You know what I mean? If you take an average pool of American men, maybe not at our age group, but just in general, almost 30, I mean, you are on the more elite end of those things. And so it's not like you're just a casual gym goer is what I'm saying. So there had to be some level of motivation to get you focused on that. You know what I mean?
I think it was overall setting goals, hitting goals, feeling that accomplishment in the gym. And then it just starts to leak over to other aspects of your life, your relationships that you have, you know, your work ethic at work when you're there.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people talk about, you know, the CrossFit workout that they go through, you know, that's the hardest part of their day. And so once you knock that out, you know, all the other conversations you have to have involving work and those tough things, you know, they seem a lot less daunting because of what you just accomplished. So I think it just grew on me. You know, they do CrossFit does the Open every year, which, you know, the whole community gets in on. I think I've found that enjoyment in being competitive even as we get older. You know, I turned 29 too this year, but the more you get into health and wellness, the more you realize, like, I want to feel this way for the next 20 years, you know? And, you know, going into a CrossFit gym, you see that. You see the 40-year-olds and the 50-year-olds who are still getting after it, and it kind of gives you that confirmation that it's possible. So, yeah, definitely.
So from a order of segmentation or whatever, we've got foundations of health, which we've been talking about, fitness as a lifestyle, and then taking it as to the next level. But let's unpack a few more just basic foundations while we're in that segment, because again, everybody's at a different journey. And hey, the point of the show, I mean, obviously I'm enjoying talking to Trevor, but it's helping men, and I say men, it could be men or women, but predominantly men is the target of the show, to do life well. Health and wellness is important of it. So what are some foundations? Like if I'm a person that's doing absolutely nothing, what's most important? And then if I'm a person who's already going down that path, what are foundations I need to be thinking about? Yeah. And I even wrote down like sleep, hydration, you know, obviously exercise we've been talking a lot about. We're going to get into diet here in a little bit, but
I think it starts with movement. I think movement is going to be where you need to start, where someone needs to start. If they feel like they don't know where to start, you know, start walking 30 minutes a day around the block. Yeah. Movement is going to trump not moving your body. So I think that's the main foundation I would start with. Of course, you know, hydration, sleep, those are things that as you get more into it, you can start to see other improvements. Like, my bench press has gone from 100 pounds to 200 pounds, but now I'm kind of stuck at 200 pounds. It's like, okay, well, how much water are you drinking a day? How much sleep are you getting? You're only getting 6 hours,
Sure.
Things like that. So, where to start? I would definitely just say movement, and it doesn't have to be 5 days, 7 days a week that you're getting in the gym, but, maybe start with 3 days a week. You found a personal trainer. Other people, they just walk in and they'll start doing the group classes.
Sure. Which I think is why CrossFit's it's so good, because I think that's the thing too. Like, obviously you just walked in a gym.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to have the courage to do that. You know what I mean? And so I think that's one, obviously we both are passionate about CrossFit. That's why we talk a lot about it. There's a lot of things you can do that's not CrossFit, obviously. Sure. But I think that's a draw to it, because it does have that class format. And so it's not, you don't have to worry about the workout itself. Right. Whereas if you do go into Planet Fitness, I mean, I get they have stuff too, no different than, Crunch or different ones. But you go in a CrossFit class, I mean, it's programmed.
Exactly.
You just got to move. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and hopefully it's well led and well coached.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's, if you don't know where to start, luckily I had a little bit of a base, a foundation, from going from Planet Fitness, doing that bodybuilding by myself.
Sure.
So I did have some sort of confidence walking into that building. But a lot of people don't, and a lot of people that are struggling don't. But, what they need to know is, it's very community driven, especially CrossFit is. So if you don't have a gym and you are looking to get into, improving your health, I would start with CrossFit, because it is welcoming. It is a community driven place to where even if you don't know what to do, to your point, you walk in those doors and the coach will inform you on how to improve yourself, and everybody there is after the same goal. So it's a great place to be when you're establishing your goals and you're establishing what you want to achieve.
Yeah, and maybe every gym's different. I mean, the one I go to, at least, it's everybody's at a different level too. Yeah. And so it's like, it's competitive in one way, because like you're competing and all of that. Yeah. At the same time too, everybody's kind of rooting for everybody also. It's this weird tension between, like, you find those that are pushing you along, and so you compete against them.
That's right.
But then you're crushing somebody else down the road, and I mean, everybody's at that place. And I think that's a lot. I mean, for me, again, it was like, which I still do the one-on-one and I go to classes, but it was like the one-on-one was helpful just because it was like, you hadn't lifted a lot, and you're like, it's intimidating to go in there with, guys that have been doing CrossFit for years, and they're like,
right,
amazing athletes, and then obviously, there's the mom's class, and just by being a man, you can be stronger.
There's some savage moms out there.
There is some savage moms. Yeah, that's true. I shouldn't say, I'll probably get embarrassed if I go to mom's class.
Right. You never know.
So fitness as a lifestyle, importance of making exercise a regular habit. Right.
Yep.
So I think a lot of people probably struggle with fitting it in. I know for me personally, which I have the flexibility to do this, but like a lot of Zoom calls, phone calls, things of that, I'll go walk. I mean, to your point, just, and the Apple Watch has helped me a lot with that, because I want to, log it and get the exercise in. But fitting it in, I guess, is my point. I think one, like, just stop making excuses and go fit it in. And then for me personally too, finding your own circadian rhythm, because some people are morning, some people are afternoon. Right. What does this schedule look like? So talk through that. Like, what's been your experience of fitting it in?
And a lot of times it changes. So it changed for me. I started, I started working out randomly. College, your class schedule really dictates what time you have, but it's very sporadic. You have a lot of time on your hands. But, going to CrossFit, I started at 5:30 in the morning class.
Yeah.
But now that's transitioned to pretty much 5:15 in the afternoon. So getting it in, I mean, sometimes you don't have to go to the gym. Sometimes it's just getting it in with the space that you have in your home, using your body weight. So I think one of the things that CrossFit really does good at is it puts a time clock on your workout, which is not something that really a lot of people do when they bodybuild or they're going into your global gym. The time leaks away.
Sure.
But if you do an EMOM, an every minute on the minute type of workout or something like that, or where you're working for 20 straight minutes, an AMRAP, you're able to accumulate a lot of work in a dense period of time. And so
sure,
it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Effective.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, I don't have an hour to go to the gym. It's like, you don't need an hour. You need 20 minutes. Sometimes you just need 10.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the classic 10-minute EMOM of doing 10 burpees on the minute and you've done 100 burpees, you know, that's a full body workout.
Yeah,
that
100%.
A lot of people don't realize that they could do in a hotel room, in their living room, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you've been good about working from home.
Yep.
With that, which, I mean, you know, with your situation with work and with everything, you know, living up in Atlanta, like, you do a lot from home. I don't. Like, I'm not a workout from home kind of person.
Yeah.
I've got to, like, and I'm not a work from home person either. Like, if I do work remote, because I do a decent amount just to get out of the office and, like, have some, you know, creative space, I'm going to a coffee shop or something. I cannot work at home. I have to have separation.
The energy from around you helps
like,
fuel
you know, if I'm at home, I'm dad, I'm husband, you know, like, which is awesome. But, like, all right, I got to go be business person, you know. Same thing with working out. Like, if I don't hit the gym, you know, and living where we live, I mean, that's the other thing I think, even for listeners that live in South Georgia where I do, it's, hey, you got to get over the drive factor. Like, it just is what it is. You're going to have to probably travel 20 minutes, at least to do CrossFit or something like that. Obviously, there are smaller gyms in pretty much every town, but if you want these top things we're talking about, but the one I go to is 20 minutes up the road. It just is what it is, but I've got to go to that gym to get it in. So I'm not a work from home person.
It's accountability too, right? It's like, you know, your buddy's there and he's waiting on you. And if you don't show up, you're going to get probably a text being like, hey man, what you doing?
That's
you know?
That's it.
You know, I know you're not busy right now. So, but it's good. You need people like that in your life because sometimes, you know, it does get hard and sometimes you do want to get lazy. So everybody has those feelings and thoughts. So it definitely helps having a community. And you don't have to go, I know we're talking a lot of CrossFit, but it's not like you have to go to a CrossFit gym, but just the methodology of CrossFit, you know, constant varied movements under different intensity. It's what just drives effects, right? It's what gives you what you want to see in the mirror. It's changes your body composition, and it's a very tried and true method of working out. So, yeah,
I mean, and talk about that for a second, because you hit on, you know, the programming itself. And I don't know what you guys do. I think our gym follows Mayhem. So it's like a lot of the programming's pre-built in, but it'd be easy for you and I to take for granted. People listening may not know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, keeping your workouts not monotonous.
Yep.
Like, give examples of, like, okay, if I am at a local gym, like an Anytime Fitness or Planet Fitness or whatever, I'm not doing CrossFit. How do I go? Because it's important to, and it not become just this monotonous grind every day.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously having someone to work out with helps, you know, it's what helps it not get stale. It's what helps it, you know, when you're struggling and you're suffering, you're not suffering alone.
Sure.
So I think it helps with burnout too, but yeah, I mean, CrossFit.com, you know, it's a free website. They post a workout on there every day. So to your point, you know, you guys follow Mayhem at your gym. I think my gym, the owner programs.
I could be wrong, but I think it is Mayhem.
Yep. That's typical. My old gym did Mayhem. And, you know, there's a lot of different programs out there. They're all good. CrossFit does their own programming and they release it for free. So, I mean, people can follow that and they can dive into it that way. There's a CrossFit journal. And once you learn the methodology, you know, you really realize you can kind of write your own workouts and tweak them from here and there. But yeah, I mean, CrossFit's not a lot of, like I said, here's your set. We're doing 4 sets, 10 reps. You know, it's varied movements. It's squatting, pressing, push-ups, running, you know, rope climbing. It's all these movements to where you can kind of have fun doing them, and it just, you know, is tremendously good for your body.
Yeah, because most of them are going to have a strength component. So you're building mass, you know, muscle mass, bench, squat, snatch, power clean, whatever. But then you're also going to go into like a short 12, 15. I mean, the one we did this morning ended up being 30 minutes because of how difficult it was. But normally they're shorter. I mean, most of the time, I honestly, not including warm up, I can be in and out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that includes like with this morning, we did squat 5x5. So 5 sets of 5 reps. You know, you find your max and you work down. That way you can do 5 reps. And then we did wall balls, like you said. We did bench press with dumbbells, so even more strength, and then power clean. You know, which that's honestly, as I say it, more strength than what I'm normally even used to doing. Because normally it's like, you know, wall balls, knee raises, or something, you know, mix in an ab. You go run 400 meters, something like that to your point. So it helps your VO2 max. And you're getting your cardio in plus your strength all kind of combined, which is why I really like it, because it's a very efficient way, like you say, to me, to get it done. And so I think even if you're at not a CrossFit gym, to keep it not monotonous, same thing. I mean, you know what I mean? Just have a litany of different movements that you can just mix and match in different ways and go about it in that way. That way you're not doing the same thing every time you walk in the gym, because it gets boring.
Exactly. And it's cardio like you've never thought of it before, right? It's like,
it's not cardio on a treadmill,
exactly.
like just, which that's important too, but it's not like, because when you say cardio, it's funny. I get the 80s picture in my head of the women in spandex on the TV. Yeah.
On the treadmill.
What they call that? I forget. What was that? I don't remember.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to get at is that, CrossFit has a way of putting cardio into these workouts to where you would have never thought that you'd be breathing so hard doing a wall ball to a target, or doing, bench press with dumbbells, or doing, a clean. You don't think about it as being completely out of breath, but how bad were we hurting in the middle of that? So, and that's the thing too, that you kind of can't really find at global gyms is, you can increase your strength a lot, but how much are you increasing your cardiovascular system, your VO2 max? And that's really what's going to give you good longevity in the end. So,
yeah, which I think is a good transition into the last bit, which is, taking it to the next level. And what makes me say that is, you talk about increasing strength. I think you go through phases of what you're trying to accomplish. I know I have in my journey, in the sense that it's like, one way you can take it to the next level, something that I do and really like, is there's a 5-star nutrition near us, and they have a free in-body scan, and I'm a data person. So everybody's different, it helps motivate me because it gives you a lot of other stuff. But what I'm caring about is my overall weight, my muscle mass weight, and my body fat percentage, right? And watching those numbers move. And so like when I first started, it was more strength heavy. Well, I guess let me back up. When I first started, it was like just get in enough shape, that way you can do this stuff, right? But then I moved into a strength cycle where I'm like, I'm not as strong as I want to be. And I've gotten to where I can squat 330, I can bench 225, and I can power clean 225, which are pretty solid numbers for just a normal. I mean, I say normal. I mean, that's probably on the higher end. But my point is, just a general athlete.
Right.
I think those are pretty solid numbers. Well, then you get to the point where you're like, I mean, do I realistically need to squat more than 330 pounds?
Right.
And how healthy is that for my joints long term? We were talking about that this morning, crunchy knees and stuff.
Yep.
So I'm like, hey, all right, now I want to kind of cut a little bit. Let's get leaner. Let's get in better shape. So you do go through these cycles. But my point is, I guess a way to take it to the next level is going and getting a scan done like that. That way you know your body. And then I try to go every 2-3 weeks. That way I can see, because are you eating right? Unless we can talk about diet in a minute. I changed up a supplement, or I did something different. Did it have any impact or not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they have other tools out there. Like you just said, your wife bought you the Aurora ring.
Yeah.
There's also the Whoop strap, Garmin's. All things like those tools are going to give you those analytical numbers, especially if that's the way you're driven.
Yeah.
To let you know how your sleep's doing. If you have a glass or two of wine, you can see how badly that affects your body.
Yeah, sure. Or not.
And it does. And but yeah, I mean, if that's the way you're driven and you're able to identify that, I mean, there's excellent tools out there like we just referenced that are going to give you that motivation to keep going.
Yeah. And I think too, like even from a performance perspective at the office, as a dad, as whatever you're doing, all this stuff matters. I mean, movement's the foundation. Get moving, get exercising regularly. Again, we can talk about diet in a second. But then how do you fine tune? Because I'm certainly not there, but I'm definitely getting in that realm of like, you hit plateaus, and like we've been talking about that even recently, where it's like, you hit this point where you're just like, the numbers aren't moving, I'm not getting any stronger, I'm just at a plateau. How do you dial that in? And sleep's so important, and that's what the Oura Ring's done, is really giving me analytics into how long I'm sleeping, how well am I sleeping, which we have 2 small kids at home, so my score is never above a 70 or an 80, but I'm like, hey, that's great. At least it's not, because a couple nights ago it was 40, you know what I mean? But it tells you, literally like, hey, you didn't rest well. You're not super on it today. You probably need to take it easy. All right, I may move my gym day from today to tomorrow. Like personally, I go 3-4 times a week. How many times do you generally work out a week?
About 6. Yeah. I'll take one rest day. in
Yeah,
there,
so
for sure.
more on the elite end, like I said at the beginning.
Yeah. Elite, intermediate to most, but sure.
But yeah, like again, 3-4 times a week, I'm hitting the gym.
Yep.
I tell you one thing I did start doing. I hate running, hate it with a passion. I ran a half marathon back in 2013.
Let's go,
I
dude.
fell, I hurt my knee. It was hilly. I trained on flat. I hated every second of it, but I did it. I mean, it was a cool accomplishment to be able to say even now I ran a half marathon. But that experience was like, I'm not interested in this at all. This is not my thing.
13.1 miles, if anybody was curious.
Yeah, and like not a full one, a half one, all that.
Right.
But that's a long ways.
It is.
But I will tell you, a buddy of mine recently introduced me to trail running, and now that I can dig.
Big
So
time.
I've been trying to do that at least once a week. I don't always go. It's kind of like my if I have time situation. Whereas the gym's like non-negotiable. I'm going. That's like, hey, I'm gonna have time. I'm gonna go run, and I'll alternate. Walk, run, and get a few miles in or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, trail running, I got into that myself in the last 2 years. I got some buddies who are into the triathlon stuff, so they bike, swim, run all the time. We did a little
Tell them about the trail run you did.
Oh yeah, we did a 24-hour relay trail run. So we had a team of people, and had a tent and sleeping bags and all that. And basically, we ran in shifts, and we ran for 24 hours. There was always somebody on our team that was running. We accumulated, I think, around 150 miles in 24 hours.
That's crazy.
It was ridiculous, but we were running at night with headlamps.
And it was around like lakes or something like that. Was it hilly? It was like North Carolina, right?
It was Charlotte. It was. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the park, but it was like a whitewater rapids park area.
Okay.
And it was really fun. Trail running, it takes the thought of, hey, I'm running out of it, and
you're looking for
especially
sticks
at dark,
and roots and
where am I putting my foot,
dark.
And so your focus is you're so hyper focused the whole time. And it's definitely fun in that regard. It's definitely challenging, but running has got to be, one of the best things that you can do for your overall body. I mean, it's big into CrossFit and, yeah. Especially, I mean, you talked about fine tuning yourself, and it's like, there's many ways that people can go about it. It's a lot of it is consuming the content and realizing what it is that you need to improve.
Sure.
For most people, it's mobility. It's, we're born and we have this crazy mobility. My brother's got a 3-year-old right now, and I watch him do a squat and he just, straight to his ankles, no problem.
Sure, yeah.
And the more that we sit and the more that we, arch our back and look at the computer screens and especially our phones, it just deteriorates your mobility over time. So I'd say that's probably like one of the main focuses when you want to move well, especially in CrossFit. I mean, we're doing compound movements that are with a heavy barbell, and you want to make sure that you're in the proper movement patterns. That way you don't injure yourself, or set yourself back. So that's probably the most important, and one of the most important ways that you can get ahead in fitness.
Yeah. So let's go to diet and supplements. I guess let's start with diet.
Okay.
I guess maybe take the same approach in the sense that it's like some people are eating McDonald's every day, 3 meals a day. So like, what's the foundations of that? Some are like, hey, I'm doing decent. Like, I know your diet, and it's again on the elite end. So not everybody's going to do that.
Gavin likes to make me feel good, but yeah, I mean, diet is probably almost more important than working out, right? And training.
Yeah.
A lot of people can work out hard and have a bad diet, and you can see a lot of changes in your body, and you can get to a pretty far point. And then once you get there, you realize I can't go any further. I can't continue to outwork my bad diet.
Sure.
And so that's where a lot of people dig in, and there's a lot of people that will count their calories. You want to hit a certain calories in a day. There's a lot of people that just focus on hitting their protein goal because they're trying to build muscle. Like you said,
Sure.
You're trying to build your strength.
Sure.
And there's a lot of different diet fads out there, like carnivore, and I'm not going to say things that don't eat meat, but there's those as well.
Sure.
And high carb, low carb, high fat, low fat, keto, etc. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go with your diet, and you can play around with it. That's the cool thing. So
I mean, I guess it's a lot like exercise.
Exactly.
In the sense that you just experiment. And again, that's why I enjoy the data, because then you can see, like, you know, how is this working for me?
yeah, and everybody's so unique. It's like what works for me might not work for you,
Sure.
or what makes me feel good might not make you feel good. And being able to experiment with that and find what really works for you is probably the best recipe, you know. And for me lately, it's been a lot of high protein and lower carb, higher fat, because I just realized that that's what I end up consuming on a daily basis anyways. And so if I can kind of stick to that, then I can tighten up a little bit. And
that's more like macro counting, right?
yeah, like
From that perspective.
I'm focused on hitting a protein number every day because I myself have strength goals. So I'm mostly eating meat and protein and consuming fat and, you know, a little bit of carbs to kind of help me with my energy and in the gym and stuff.
And it's generally like, what, a gram a pound? Meaning like how much you weigh, you know, in pounds, convert it to grams, and that's how many grams of protein you should have.
Right. Yep. That's a typical baseline is like, hey, if I want to weigh 200 pounds, you need to be eating 200 grams of protein every day.
Which is a lot if you're not used to counting it.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that it's a lot to me. I mean,
It
you
is.
know, I'm pretty consistent, like 150, 175.
Yep.
I don't find that to be super challenging, but
Right.
like you start getting 220, those kind of numbers, it's like, that's a lot of protein.
It is. And you realize that eating that much food is not easy and having to prep it and stuff. And so, yep.
And I've even done that recently, because you talk about the volume and like counting calories, because I've done that a lot. Like it helps me stay accountable if I'm putting it in. Again, it's the data in an app like you know, MyFitnessPal or Lose It is the one that I use. You're logging all your food, and you know obviously visually see your macros and all that. But my personal trainer actually just had me dial up my calories a little bit. You know, which I'm like, I don't know. Like in my mind, that still doesn't make sense to me. You know, I get there's obviously reasons and all of that. But I'm like, you know, the more calories you burn, if you burn more than you take in, you should be losing body fat percentages. That I just hadn't seen that be the case, even though I think logically it makes makes sense. But he had me dial it up a little bit, because he's like, hey, you need to be eating a little bit more.
Yeah,
you know?
I've definitely heard that. Unfortunately, you know, I myself am not a nutritionist either, as well as you, so I don't really know the science behind it. But I have heard that plenty of times, to where, you know, women especially, I mean, men do this too, but they undereat, you know, and they get told a lot of times, hey, you need to eat more. And then they end up, you know, losing more weight.
I guess it's metabolism, right? I mean, your just metabolism just slows down, goes into starvation mode, and
wants to hang on to food because they don't know when it's going to get another meal. Sure. Yep.
What supplements do you take? Are you taking any currently, or?
I do. Yeah. I take protein, in a powder, because as you said, you know, eating that much protein is kind of hard in a day. And so now you have shakes and things that are going to give you 30 grams of protein, 40 grams of protein in a sitting. So I'll do protein powder, and then I also do a pre-workout, because, you know, I do like to feel rushed and get that energetic feeling for sure, especially when you're strength training a lot. So, shout out Podium. That's what I take. I do the protein and pre-workout. So that's what works for me.
Yeah. I've been experimenting with a few. I haven't, the last couple of weeks I haven't, but I normally do, I have protein powder also. I do a greens every morning.
Yeah, I used to do a greens.
It's a good way to get fruits and veggies in, you know, which we eat pretty decent. Me and my wife cook pretty much every night. So, I mean, we're getting a pretty balanced meal. I mean, it's not always the healthiest, but I mean, it's definitely home cooked. We're not eating out, things like, and I think that's big too. You know, when you talk about diet, like it's really tough. I mean, you can, but you know, it's just, especially drive-through, but even restaurant, I mean, the portions are just so massive. It's just like, it's just tough to eat out and stay consistent with your diet.
Yeah, I think you get to a point too, or at least I have, to where you think about, you know, you don't really want to cook. You're like, man, I'd rather do DoorDash, or I'd rather just run and grab some to-go food. And then you start to think about it, and you're like, man, I could cook a meal here, and it'd be a lot better than going and paying for something. And a lot of times that's what wins me over, and I end up cooking because I'm like, wow, this is a better meal than what I would have gotten being lazy in a sense. So.
And I'm taking creatine every day.
Creatine, I do take creatine. Yep, absolutely. I mean, as far as muscle growth, I think that's probably the most bang for your buck. I know it's got a lot of negative stigma around it. Yeah. I think as long as you're consuming enough water and you're staying hydrated and you're flushing your kidneys and everything's filtering properly, it's it's definitely recommended.
Yeah. And like you say, I mean, I'm no expert on it. I feel like maybe going through the 80s and 90s, there was just a lot around creatine, you know, maybe the way it was made and the impacts it had. And you got like the bodybuilding steroid age and you know what I mean? There was I think some of that's like overblown and just residue from the past. You know, I don't feel like creatine's that big of a deal anymore. I think it's pretty common for people to take 5 milligrams a day every single day forever. We're not cycling anymore. I mean, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like coffee, right? It's like coffee's like good for you 1 decade, bad for you 1 decade, back to good for you 1 decade.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Red wine, same way. It's great for your health, and then it's horrible for your health.
Good for your heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I've heard that.
And then 2, I'm taking Fedosia agrestis and then Tenkat Ali. I got that from Dr. Huberman.
Yeah.
From
Shout out Dr. Hughes.
Yeah, from testosterone.
Yeah, Dr. Huberman. You know, speaking of fine-tuning your game and getting that edge, I think it comes down to consuming good content and quality content.
Yeah.
You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of audiobooks, and I feel like anybody does who gets intrigued about a topic or into a topic. And so what better topic than health and wellness that's going to last your lifetime? It's going to improve your life, you know, and improve the relationships around you, improve your career. And, you know, for everyone who starts a family, you know, you want to be able to pick your kids up, tote your kids around.
100%.
So,
and preparing for your grandkids and great grandkids and, you know, and a lot of guys, you know, with us being a software company, we follow, you know, a lot of this stuff overlaps. You know what I mean? Even we're going to do an episode on AI. We've got business and all these different things. And it's like, you know, you listen to these guys that are on the forefront of the technology sector. They're talking a lot about longevity and, you know, the Bible says you can live to be 120. I mean, that's what they used to be, you know? And so it's like, hey, you can hold on to that stuff, but, you know, is that realistic or not? And if you're not preparing for that, it's not going to be.
Right.
And I think people like Dr. Huberman and different ones, you know, again, because it's data. I mean, like, I was just feeling fatigued. You know, you're in your 20s. Obviously, testosterone's not a huge issue. You go get blood work done. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't even go to the doctor at our age, you know. Right. And again, I'm like, from a health and wellness perspective, you know, I have a physician that's almost like concierge medicine. I told him, I'm like, here's what I'm looking for. I want a consultant. I want somebody who can be here for the long haul. Listen, I'm getting blood work done regular. I want to know, like, what are the numbers within my body? And the testosterone was on the lower end of things. And so I added those in. Dr. Huberman recommended them, not to me personally, obviously, but on his podcast. And I bought
his number. We text.
Yeah, right. Momentous, I think, is the name of his company. You know, that sells them, and It's been good. I've seen my numbers go up. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, again, I think it's just if you don't know the data, you can't make changes.
That's right.
That's why I like data and knowing these different metrics about your body. And again, we're talking in this part fine tuning and really more on the advanced end of things, but it makes it fun, you know, and it's something to do. So.
Yep. I mean, it where to start, get in there, you know, get moving. But once you start developing goals and, you know, you realize that, you know, if you're not writing this stuff down, if you're not checking it, if you're not keeping a notebook, you kind of are shooting in the dark. So it just depends on what you're after. But getting moving is really the priority.
For sure.
Yep.
Well, hey guys, we appreciate you for joining us. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
It's been fun. Again, trying to do life well. And I think, you know, there are some key just pillar components of that, and this is one of them. You know, if you're not healthy, you're not doing your diet the way you should, you're not working out, you're not fine-tuning yourself, you know, hey, realistically, you can't show up every day excellent for your family and for your coworkers and things. And
right.
And hey, you can get away with it age for a while. But, you know, me, I'm thinking like 30 is a big number. That's us next year.
Yeah,
you know, man. I mean, when I say big, I just mean there's just a lot to go into being a 30-year-old, you know, especially for a man, even from a biblical perspective. And so you want to make sure you're taking care of your business.
Yeah. 30 is the new 20. Keep improving.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, 100%. For sure. Yeah. People are living longer and longer.
That's right.
So you better be taking care of your body so that you're not, you know, hobbling around, you know, when medicine's keeping you alive way longer than it used to.
That's right. Movement is medicine.
That's it. Now we again, Peter Diamandis, you know, a leader in the technology space. He's like, don't die from something stupid in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because medicine's just evolving so fast in technology. Like we're going to be living longer and longer. So you got to put in the work.
Yep.
So anyway, great episode. Appreciate it.
Thanks everybody.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us on the Do Life Well podcast, where we explore topics like fatherhood, business, health, wellness, and so much more. With each episode, we aim to inspire and guide you in embracing the art of doing life well. If you found value in today's conversation, please leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time, continue the journey of doing life well.